Mindful Mama Collective. And I am Chelsea, and I'm here with my co-host, Rebecca. And we just love chatting about mindfulness, healthy living, and all the things that we want to share with you. So Rebecca is going to be chatting with us mostly today, but I'll just share a little bit about myself. I'm a mama of 2 boys, and I have been through quite the mindset journey, and I am super excited to be sharing all of these topics and share all the growth that I've had. And then Rebecca will share with you her journey through her postpartum. So take it away.
All right. Hi, guys. My name is Rebecca. Thank you so much for joining us today. I have 3 kids. I'm a mom of 3 kids. I'm a homeschooling mom as well. So life is busy and I love it, but it hasn't always been this way. And when we got pregnant with our 3rd child, I literally wanted to die. I was 3 months pregnant with him, and I was diagnosed with perinatal depression. And you know, you hear the stories about postpartum depression, and I get that. I've been there. I had it with my other 2, but you know, pregnancy is supposed to be this really joyful time. And there we go. I'm back, I think.
Yep. Okay. You're good.
Okay. Oh goodness.
Technical difficulty.
Yeah. What a time. I am just pinging some people to our room, just so that they can join and hear a little bit about our story as well. So I'll start over, Chelsea, with my story, if that's okay. So being pregnant literally took away my desire to live. Like, you've heard of postpartum depression, right? And that made sense to me. I'd had 2 kids prior, and so I was used to that. And like, people talk about that too. They talk about postpartum, but nobody talks about perinatal depression. And so what was supposed to be this exciting time was a time where I just felt like I just didn't want to be alive anymore. Like, I struggled to bond with my child. And seriously, one day I was sitting there and I was holding someone else's baby, and the baby wouldn't stop crying, and I couldn't get the baby to stop crying. And they were a first-time parent, and I was on my 3rd time, and I'm sitting there holding this baby, trying to get it to calm down. And I just thought, I can't do this again. I have to give this kid up for adoption. Like, I just thought, I'll give birth to it, and then I'll just give it away, because I can't do this. And that, even now, that just, like, I feel like I just got punched in the stomach remembering that. But, you know, and as a person of faith, you're told, oh, pregnancy is such a joyful time, and this baby's such a blessing. And it just didn't make sense to me, because the baby did not feel like a blessing at that time. Like, how could this thing that was supposed to be so exciting, it was torpedoing my career. It was causing rifts in all sorts of relationships, and it just didn't make sense. This is supposed to be a joyful, exciting time. And so when I shared, you know, with people that I was struggling, I often got comments like, oh, it'll be worth it in the end. And I'm like, which end? Because when I have the baby, then I have to feed the baby, I have to change the baby's going to get sick, I'm not going to sleep. So that line, and so many other lines, just didn't make sense to me. And I really struggled with not feeling angry at people for not having the answer. And so, you know, I was questioning things like, am I going to be able to love this child? Am I going to be able to take care of my family? What about this business that I have going on? Because I had such anxiety, I could not even get myself to collect from clients who owed it to me. So I had given them a service, they had agreed, they had signed a contract, and I couldn't call them and say, hey, can I pick up a check today? I couldn't do it. Like, it was affecting everything. It wasn't, oh, you know, I'm sad, or I feel like I'm going to cry all the time. It was a misery that was so deep, I could not function. And so I really struggled with not blaming the child for that, right? Like, the only reason I'm feeling this way is because I'm pregnant. And so there was a lot of a lot of thoughts and a lot of thinking that went through this. And so days would go by before I could get myself to do dishes. I wasn't running a business. Laid in their pull-ups because I just didn't have it in me to do laundry. And there were times where would go by and I hadn't washed my hair. And it wasn't just that I was sad, it was that I was frozen. Like I didn't even realize how bad it was till one night so after I had my son, I'm like, okay, you know, we're going to get through this. I'm going to bond with this child. And we had just moved into a house and we were doing renovations and there was just a lot going on. And I was just stuck in this misery and not being able to explain it. And then one night when my son was 6 months and I put the kids to bed and they just would not go to sleep. They were bouncing all over the place. They were whining and I couldn't figure out why they weren't going to sleep. And then I realized that I hadn't fed them supper. And that was rock bottom for me. That was, oh my goodness, what kind of a mother forgets to feed her children, right? And so the depression had literally taken my ability to take care of kids. That was gone. And I called my therapist and the next day I started on medication. And I remember thinking, okay, this is it. This is going to be like the magic pill. Everything's going to be better from here on out. And for a while, as the medication was going through my system, things did start improving. I remember 3 days after I started medication, I put the kids to bed. And then I saw that there were crumbs on the floor and I picked up a broom and I swept the floor. And my husband's like, I don't remember the last time that you like swept or did any type of housework after the kids went to sleep. And it was just like, oh my goodness, this is the magic pill. This is going to fix everything, right? Like I'm doing things 3 days into medication. And it was such a relief to go, okay, this is going to help me be able to be the mom that my family needs me to be, I mean. And so I've had people ask like, Rebecca, why did it take you a year into depression to start medication? And honestly, the simple answer is that I didn't think that I needed it. Like I thought I had a handle on life, and you know, that sink to rock bottom to forgetting to feed my kids supper was really, really slow. It was like 18 months from the time that I became pregnant till I realized, okay, this is really, really bad. And so I did go on the medication. I had been in therapy before that, and that was helping as well. But the medication just helped me to function. And I'm so, so thankful for it, but it didn't fix everything. And that really was the beginning of my study into the many facets of mental health. I'm so fortunate to have a doctor that practices holistically. And so every time I would call her and be like, Doc, I need you to increase my dose because I'm just not functioning well, she would say things like, are you going to the gym regularly? How is your diet? Have you been seeing your therapist? She would ask me all these questions before she would increase my dosage. And sometimes that would be so frustrating because it was like, no, just give me more meds. I need an instant fix. But that was really where, with her help, I started exploring other ways to increase my mental health. And so I had to go through a period of frustration because not understanding medication well, I to think that, you know, that would just be the magic pill. And it was, you know, 3 days into taking it, I was actually functioning, but it was helping me to function, but it wasn't necessarily making all that trauma and all those things I hadn't dealt with go away. And so that's when I really started diving in with my therapist. And then eventually in this course where Chelsea and I met about thinking into results. And so there's a lot more to my story, and we're so thankful to the people that joined us today to hear it. I don't know a lot of people that have experienced what I experienced, but if you have, I want you guys to know you're not alone. You know, sharing a story is great and stories are powerful, but I always want to help someone when I share my story, right, Chelsea? I want to, maybe something that I learned can give them the step up, right? And you and I have learned a lot, and we talk a lot about mindset and different things. But the biggest thing that has helped me get through these last 3 years, and I still have, now they call it postpartum, and it's kind of just merged into depression, but it doesn't rule my life anymore. So there are days when I struggle to function, and you and I have been chatting back and forth the last couple of weeks because I've just been transitioning to a lot of different things and been going through a rough time. But something that I learned in therapy that has really, really helped me is to analyze our feelings. So you say, yesterday I was feeling overwhelmed and anxious. And so I had to sit there and go, okay, what am I feeling and what is true? Because I was feeling overwhelmed and anxious, and then I was snapping at my husband, and then he said something, and then my kids were doing something, and it was like, oh, okay, we just need to slow down, take a minute and go, okay, I'm feeling overwhelmed, and be okay with that, right? Like owning the fact that you're feeling overwhelmed, or you're feeling sad or frustrated, because feelings aren't facts, they're indicators. But as a person, as a whole person, where you're supposed to have feelings. If you don't have feelings, that ends up being dangerous as well. And so I have learned to go, okay, I'm feeling sad. Or, you know, one time in my therapy session, my therapist said to me, okay, you're 4 months pregnant. Do you actually want this baby? And she had recognized something that I was not willing to admit, that no, I didn't want this baby. This baby was wreaking havoc on my life. But it was only when I admitted that we could then start moving forward and actually getting to the point where I was excited to meet this baby, right? It wasn't like if I had kept hiding that and shoving that down like I was with all of my friends and mentors, that wasn't getting me anywhere. And so that was the first thing I learned, was just say how you're feeling, put it out there, admit it, and let yourself feel it. I have a friend that when she goes through a disappointment, like she made a sales call and the person decided to go with somebody else, or just something disappointing happened, she gives herself an hour. She gives herself an hour to just sit and feel crappy about it, and then she moves on. And I just thought that was such a cool way to do it. Like, okay, yeah, there's a crappy feeling here. Feel it, because if you keep shoving it down, you're not going to get anywhere. And so that was one thing I really, really learned, and to analyze your thoughts and feelings. So yesterday I was feeling overwhelmed, or if we use, let's go back to the mom example. So I was feeling overwhelmed, and my son, who I love now, that pregnancy was torpedoing everything, but I was blaming the baby. And so my therapist and I had to go through, and we had to say, okay, what is true about what you're dealing with right now? And so what was true was that the pregnancy had, you know, changed hormones and was making things difficult for me, but that was not the baby's fault, right? And there were still things that I could do to move forward. So I published a magazine at that point, and so we went on a hiatus, and I messaged all of my clients and I said, for, you know, these next 6 months, we will not be publishing a magazine, but we'll be back better, bigger and better and stronger when we come back. Those were things I could do. You know, that anxiety with not being able to call somebody to get them to pay me when they had already agreed to pay me. My therapist was like, well, you know, money's tight. I was so stressed about money. And she's like, well, okay, you don't want to call them? How about emailing them, right? There's always things that are in your control. And I think we start spiraling, and I know I was spiraling because I was focused on what I couldn't control and what I was feeling rather than where I wanted to be. And I think that's a huge part. And maybe Chelsea, you want to talk about this a little bit, you know, instead of focusing on where you don't want to be, focusing on where you do want to be. So I didn't want to be depressed and anxious and not want this baby, right? Because like, as a person of faith, I do believe that every life has a purpose and is a blessing. And so we actually named our son before he was even born, because I so wanted to bond with him and I wanted him to know that he was loved. And so that was one thing that I worked through with my therapist that helped me to go, okay, what do I want to feel? What do I want from having this child? So that was huge. So I think for about 4 weeks before he was born, we called him by his name because that's what we wanted.
Yeah, and it's so cool that you can then switch it. So coming out of that place from being like feeling this pregnancy is not what you want, but then switching it and seeing the good. Like, what is this pregnancy going to teach me? What do I have to now learn that the universe, God, source, whatever wants me to learn? Because ultimately, Jackson was a teacher of some kind to you. And now look at what you've done. You've explored so many things just by having that experience. And now it's led you into so many other areas of your life and growing your mindset and everything else and doing the things now that you're doing because of the experience you had, that it didn't feel good. It didn't feel comfortable. And it's so cool. And I'm so proud of you for doing all of this.
Thank you. I think, yeah, that's a good reminder, Chelsea, that like everything you go through. I did a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and it's such a cheesy line, but it can make you bitter or it can make you better. Right. And so I could have had this baby and been awful to him because like after he was born, my career was dead. It just was. But I'm so doing what I love now so much more than before Jackson. Right? Like I get to share my story with mamas who maybe are still struggling, and I still have my days where I struggle, but I have the tools now to move forward and not stay stuck. And that's what we're really trying to do with the Mindful Mama Collective, is just like being aware of where you are and then being aware of where you want to be. Right? Because those are two different things. And I think we can get so easily stuck in, oh, I'm overwhelmed. My kids aren't sleeping. The house is a disaster. We just did this last week. I got really overwhelmed. My husband's work is getting very busy, and I was frustrated. And so I finally said to him, I need a cleaner. I need somebody to come in and help me clean once a week. And when I realized that that's what I needed the help, and he wasn't going to be able to give it because of his work schedule right now, we were able to come up with a solution. So my house right now is spotless because we had a cleaner yesterday. So rather than staying stuck in the poor me or I'm overwhelmed, we sat down, we looked at what the actual problem was, and then came up with the solution. And that was what therapy taught me, was don't stay stuck. And so that's been huge. And I think if we've got a little bit, we have a few more minutes, Chelsea, I would love to share a few other things that have really helped me in this mom journey for the days that are hard. Is that all right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So number one is gratitude, right? Gratitude is so important because we can get so caught up in, I know I did just yesterday. So the cleaner came and I'm like so embarrassed at the state of my home. And I'm like, you know, I went to a friend's house the other day and her house is always clean. And I ordered in yesterday, ordered takeout. And I'm like, well, I have friends, they order out once a month and it's for a date and that's it. And I kept comparing and I'm like, but none of those people are in the stage of life that I am, right? I stopped myself and I went, okay, what is the actual issue here? It's that I don't feel like I measure up to those people, but their story isn't my story. My friend with the spotless house, her youngest daughter is the same age as my oldest kid. And my friend that eats takeout once a month, she's a stay-at-home wife who doesn't even have a job. Like she keeps the home and she cooks meals. And so she's not working outside of the home. And I love that for her. And she's an amazing, amazing person. But she also doesn't have 3 kids running around and she's not trying to homeschool, right? And so when I stopped myself and went, I am grateful that I have a cleaner. I am grateful that we can afford to get pizza on Monday nights. Then it helped me to just shift from that victimizing and that comparison and realizing, hey, I've got it pretty good. You know, like I can afford this help. I can afford the pizza. And so that has been huge. And when you mix mindfulness and gratitude together, it just makes your life so, so, so much better. Another one is getting outside. Like, I'm not sure where our listeners all live, but I live in Southwestern Ontario, and it is absolutely beautiful in the fall. And so this morning, the kids and I were super miserable. We were trying to do schoolwork and nobody was in the mood. So I just said, let's stop. We're all stuck in this low vibe. Let's go outside. We biked and rollerbladed around the block, and we came back in and everyone was in a better mood. And that's something so simple, right, Chels? So simple. You just go outside. Yeah. And some days I put a show on for the kids or just get them doing something else, and I will go and I will stand on my front porch, and just for a minute, I will take deep breaths, because fresh air invigorizes us. It is good for your brain, it's good for your lungs, and that's been such a small thing that has really, really helped me. And
just seeing like the leaves changing, and like if you can't even get out for a walk, if you have like little ones napping or something, like, or if you can get out for a walk, like go walk around, like look at nature, like stop and look at bugs or leaves or anything. It's just like be a kid again and use your imagination. It's so cool that we can still do that.
Oh yeah. And that's why I love homeschooling, Chelsea, is because I get to be a kid all over again, like all the crafts and the, everything. And I think we need to get back to that inner child sometimes, right? Like get excited about things, let yourself enjoy things, and just, I guess the theme of my story really is to find what's good and find what you're going to learn, and find something positive, because there's always something good in the world. It might not be in your life at this moment, but there's always something good in the world. And I remember going back to, comparison and victimizing. I remember being so frustrated that we had to live in our basement for a year when we were renovating. And then one Sunday at church, the pastor was showing a church or a home in the Philippines that he had been visiting, and it was literally a mud hut. And I'm like, okay, get over yourself, Rebecca. like you're doing okay. You have 2 floors. You are safe. You have a roof over your head, right? And so that gratefulness again is huge. And I think the other thing, when I'm outside, I get my creative juices flowing too. And Jefferson Bethke once said that you were made to create more than you consume. And I find when I get outside and I clear my mind, then I start getting creative. And then I think, oh, I could do this post, or I could do this piece of art, or I could write this person a card. And creativity has been so healing for me. I love plants and flowers, and we're going to do a whole nother room on nature therapy and what you can do on your own. But I have found that when I'm cross stitching or making a wreath or painting or drawing, it might not be beautiful. It might not, I probably couldn't sell it, but my mind is so focused on that it like clears the space. And so now when I feel overwhelmed or sad or especially anxious and fidgety, I go and make something. I go draw a picture, I doodle, or I go make a flower arrangement, just because it like quiets my mind. That has been a huge, huge thing for me as well. So I think I'm trying to think of how we can recap this, because we're just about ready to close out the room. But maybe should we open the room to see if anybody has questions or something they'd like to share?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Okay, mamas or others that are in the room, if you have something you would like to say or ask, we are here. We are here every Tuesday morning at 11 Eastern. We're here to talk about motherhood and how to do that intentional and be mindful. And I'm particularly passionate about mental health when it comes to motherhood, because I haven't had a great experience, and I haven't found that there are as many resources out there as I would have thought. And so if you've come today, we're so thankful you're here, and we hope that you'll join us again. Chelsea, is there anything you want to add? I know I did most of the chatting today. Something you want to say to add to that?
I just wanted to touch quickly on the piece of your story that you shared, how talking about the experiences, I guess, you had when you were pregnant, and kind of that awkward small talk that people just feel they have to say something to you in order for you to feel better about yourself. If you're saying my pregnancy wasn't great or I'm experiencing this, like instead of saying it will get better, just hold space for that mom, because that is all they are needing. They are not needing your advice to say, please make this better, or it will get better, or oh, it'll be fine when the baby's here, because it's like that is not helpful. Just hold space and just know, like, let that mom know that you are there to just be there for support, encouragement, anything that you can do to kind of lift her spirits if it is just a really, really tough pregnancy or the postpartum. Like, there's a lot of people you don't realize or don't know that have a really, really rough pregnancy and postpartum because they don't talk about it. And that is kind of, again, why we're here. Just keep like bringing up these topics that people don't seem to want to talk about a lot, because it's a common thing and I think it needs to be shared more. So that is kind of our goal and our mission. And yeah.
And we've got a Facebook group, or Chelsea has a Facebook group. If anything that we said today resonates with you, or you need some more support, we have a Mindful Mama Collective group on Facebook so that we can support you. And Chelsea's got all sorts of stuff. She's into essential oils and mindset and Montessori parenting, and I'm super passionate about mental health and how we can help get you there. So reach out to us. If you saw this today, if you were in the room, we'll reach out to you as well. But thank you so much for joining the Mindful Mama Collective. We're here every week. We look forward to having you guys again next week. We're going to close out the room and we'll see you next Tuesday at 11.
And I just wanted to add in that we are now recording these on Zoom, which then they're going to be uploaded to YouTube. So if you missed the beginning of our chat, we're going to be uploading it to YouTube for you to catch the whole story. If you're like, what is happening? I don't know Rebecca's story. It'll be on YouTube. So follow along.
We'll be starting an actual club on Clubhouse here in a couple of weeks, and we'll have links and all of that stuff. We're just getting started here, but we're not going anywhere, and we're here to support you.
Thanks for joining us.